back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, we are back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com podcast, where we got the entire crew ready to go. We've got basketball. We've got ice storms. We got National Signing Day, which entails one person signing. Look, we're going to get to a lot of stuff today, but first off, let's just welcome in the boys. Josh is back in Houston. I'm sure just swamped on this day. Eddie and Bob here in the studio with me in the conference room, where we're trying not to freeze our asses off because it is campus is closed today. We were going to have kind of a big signing day media thing, and it got canceled today.
It's going to be like 3 hours long.
Yeah, we're going to get talk to Emmett Thomas, the new receivers coach. Emmett Jones, the new receivers coach. And I don't even know an Emmett Thomas. No, Emmett Smith.
Wasn't Emmett Thomas a what's it called? What Supreme Court Justice?
Clarence Thomas.
Clarence Thomas. Yeah. Oh, wow.
So
it's
one
all
that
been
had
ruined
the pube on the
anyways.
Coke can or something, wasn't that right?
I don't think that was Clarence Thomas.
Mystery.
He was the one. I don't know. I don't know the whole story with he and Anita Hill. But
Anita Hill, right? Yeah.
That's the one that's dating Jeffree Star now, I think.
Was one of the spicier ones ever for a Supreme Court justice.
Wasn't Anita Hill going to be the next Stanford football coach or something? She was on the college football playoff committee, right?
That's Condoleezza Rice.
Condoleezza Rice.
Condi Rice.
Condi Rice. I'm getting my...
I don't know.
Boy.
Hills are...
Is this racist?
This
Wow,
banner
this is
start.
really early. Is this racist?
I don't know. I mean, you talk about,
Condoleezza Rice is a good friend of mine. We go to we hang out in some of the same spots. Augusta National. I went to Berkman's place. She goes to Berkman's place as well. One of the exclusive venues at the Augusta National. It's off of number 5. If you've been. So it's not that big of a deal, but it's kind of a big deal.
Maybe she was a Stanford professor. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. I better stop while I'm ahead.
Yeah, well, I think we're well behind.
I'm well behind to start this show. I was thinking about this walking through the office the other day, though. Regardless, no matter how many fights we get on the Twitter this week, that's gone swimmingly for me. Anyway, I was thinking, don't ever, unless there's a gunshot or a stabbing, if you find me dead in here someday, I didn't do it on purpose. I just want everyone to know that.
I think that's fair.
I feel good about my life.
You didn't get stabbed on purpose?
No, if I get murdered, that's a whole different case. But I'm not.
Okay.
I no matter how bad things are going or how cold it is, I just realized it's been miserable the last few years. It's never going to get so bad that I want to just end it. I'm just telling you that right now. So
that's fair.
If I die, it's definitely a mystery murder.
Noted. Well, and I think that for the longest time, we've had a working list of people that maybe would murder us.
It's been added to this week.
It was added to this week.
Yes.
So that's okay.
I think the only way it could be self-inflicted for me is probably alcohol poisoning. That's a real one. That's a possibility for all the killers out there that need to frame me. That's one I got to watch out for.
And the reason I was thinking about is I probably should make a manual about what to do if I die suddenly, how to run this place, because I need to pass down some knowledge to somebody. Because what would you do if I just died suddenly?
I don't know. It depends if I did the murder.
Conversations
if you weren't in jail.
Yeah, it depends. Well, if I wasn't on the
or
run,
a suspect.
If I wasn't, yeah.
I mean,
I thought I treated Eddie well. I guess I need to rethink things.
In many ways, Eddie is like your on-site work wife, and I'm like your work wife in general. So, are Eddie and I similarly seen as suspects? That would be interesting.
I think you both would be suspects for sure.
I watch enough Dateline
but I think
to know that you don't get away with that kind of stuff.
Tiffany would be the non-media villain, largest suspect, I think, just because I spend all the money that could be going her way.
And again, that woman will look you dead in the eye and tell you she knows how to put you into unconscious states without you knowing what's happened.
What was
that's
it?
a terrifying thing to sleep next to someone like that, a true monster.
What was the thing on Breaking Bad? Ricin? Was that it? How they killed people without anybody knowing?
Well, it was some type of
ricin or something.
Yeah. I think it was something like that was in the pill.
Right.
Yeah. It was
put it in
something
that,
along those
that
lines.
Lady's coffee, the cartel lady.
Yes. Spoiler.
I think Breaking Bad was like 10 years old today.
Is it really?
Like, what is
today?
Look it up. I mean, Google it. But there has some anniversary for Breaking Bad that it was.
Interesting.
It started like 10 years ago.
One of the it's one of the great series that I actually watched and thoroughly enjoyed.
I am actually taking. Josh and I both are taking Eddie's movie advice or series advice, TV advice, and we're both watching Jack Ryan now.
Jack Ryan's great.
Jack Ryan's
first episode date.
Season 2 was not season 1, but season 1 was.
Maybe
season
the
1's
pilot.
great.
Maybe it was the pilot.
January 20th was the first episode for Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
January
Okay, so
20th, 2008.
Like a week ago would have been 15 years.
Spoiler.
Great series.
Yeah, there are no spoilers. 15 years, I think, is the statute of limitations.
That's fair.
Yeah, I was fixing that. We need to set up like a pod. Like there's certain rules in the pod. Like we're not spoiling if the last episode is old enough to drive a car or something like that. Like there has to be some sort of record.
Dude, I was saving that.
There was a lot of stuff in Breaking Bad that you could not see, huh? Coming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was. I mean, just a great series.
Tiffany started watching it with me at the same time. I didn't watch it in real time. Like I probably started watching it like in 14 or 15. Like
Same.
after, no, I think it was like right around the time it was going off the air. But it's like it's the last season. It's going to be incredible. And I was like, okay, I've missed this. I need to go back and watch this. And Tiffany was out with the bathtub scene. That was when she was like, nope, no more for me, thanks. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, we just have very different viewing ideas.
I say to this day that Tuco is still the most uncomfortable villain in any series.
Pretty good actor.
Yeah.
Pretty good actor. Although, like, the guy that leads,
Nacho.
like, I was just thinking, like, in Jack Ryan, the guy that leads the incel or whatever.
The guy that they thought was the
Solomon. I'm talking about Solomon.
Suleiman or whatever.
I thought he did a really good job in the first season of Jack Ryan. I thought that.
I'm only
shit
like
was
3
badass.
episodes in.
Okay, so you'll get there.
I know who he is. I've been introduced to his family.
Yeah. You'll get
The
there.
whole first episode was fantastic. I'm a big Tom Clancy just slut. I'll watch anything Tom Clancy.
Oh. Like, I remember being a kid watching Hunt for Red October at like 10 years old and thinking that was like the greatest movie I'd ever seen. That was probably the first time I ever saw Sean Connery. Like for a short period of time, I thought Sean Connery was actually Russian.
Yes, he's a Russian.
You're like, Russians
yes.
can have Scottish accents?
Like, wait a minute. He was Bond? What are you talking about? He's Russian.
That is, I mean, like, nobody, that's the one guy that, like, he doesn't ever have to have another accent, but you're just like, it's okay, it's Sean Connery. It's fine. He's a Russian.
He does what
admiral.
he wants.
All right, we have a new segment, a new sponsor for the pod that is starting with us today, and a new feature on the pod that we're going to do each and every week as we lead into it. It's the Enjoy Vision Fresh Perspective Look Back, and just a chance for us to kind of look back on what happened last week, what we missed out on, things that have happened since we podded last. And guys, I think the Big 12 schedule release, obviously the thing that most people are talking about, and we're going to talk about all this stuff a lot more in detail, but just quick thoughts. I mean, I don't think OU got screwed by any means. I thought it was a very fair schedule to them.
Not only is it a fair schedule, but I think just the way that it plays out with the home, away, or vice versa, away, home to end the season. Like, I know that the short turnaround kind of sucks, and we'll get into it as far as going from Provo to get TCU in your own backyard on a short week on Thanksgiving. But I like the idea of playing a Friday night game or a Friday game. I don't know when the time's going to be.
I don't know when that's going to be.
Friday night would be badass, though, if that was like the only game that's being played nationally.
It would be great. Yeah.
It'd be really cool. So, I think that anything besides that, and then on top of just the fact that, it's a little sad that they're not playing Texas Tech anymore, or Kansas State or something like that.
Yeah.
So we'll get
into it. Alabama, Oklahoma over the weekend. I don't think any of us thought that the Sooners would have a chance after watching them destroy Arkansas.
You missed the dark episode last week,
I know,
Bob,
I did.
when we basically kind of questioned the status of the program.
We were ready to burn Lloyd Noble down last week.
And I still am.
You're still up for a different reason.
It wasn't burn it down.
Celebration.
It was get rid of it. But then people started saying, I want a T-shirt that just says burn it down with a picture of Lloyd Noble on it. So we were, not only were we mad at OU basketball, we were mad at Lloyd Noble Arena, Lloyd Noble Center. And all of a sudden you come out of that thing just feeling the court storming. I don't even have a problem with that. But just a wire-to-wire win last week.
They needed it. They got it. Where do they go from here? That's what we're going to find out.
Best atmosphere I've been in the Lloyd Noble Center.
Since Buddy.
Maybe even before that. Like the Buddy stuff kind of came together because it was like this team's going to go maybe win a Final Four or something or get to a Final Four. This was like out of nowhere. I thought the crowd before the game, like Joe C came up and was like, this is awesome. I was like, I can't believe it.
And then today is National Signing Day, which we could probably cover that all in this one little tiny segment. Josh, one signee for the Sooners. Did you think that there was a chance of anything else happening today?
Not really. I mean, there's just been no movement in that direction. And you look at what Oklahoma's been doing. I mean, all the offer guys, I put up our, something I'm trying to make a Monday feature.
Okay, we're not selling the site right now. We're just going through little short segments.
Sure. No, just the week of offers. There were 30 offers made last week. Like, and 5 of them went to in-state kids. So
the attention was so much towards the coming classes that you didn't think they were working so hard.
Yeah. I mean, Oklahoma's made as many 2026 offers in the last 2 weeks as they have 2023. So that kind of tells you where it's all at. Well,
Taylor Heim is the one. The Taylor Heim was the one signature that they have today. We're going to talk a little bit more about him. Brent Venables released a statement. The university did announce him, and it does kind of make you feel like that's it. I don't think school's closed today. That doesn't mean the athletic department can't be open to do stuff. But I'm sure if it would have been a big day. But I can't even remember. Did they do the full wrap-up in the first, bringing in Gabe and in all those guys, like the Sooner Sports stuff?
Oh, for the
December?
spring signing?
Uh-huh.
They did for December, I know, because remember, Brent was still down there when he was doing all the press conferences.
And you got to remember, last year was Brent's first months on the job, so he had to sign a bunch of kids.
Right.
Didn't have to do that today.
And, so outside of that, I mean – Eddie, I know you've been working with Enjoy quite a bit, and you're a big reason why they wanted to jump on the pod because they've worked with you. But happy to have them on board as a new sponsor, and I know you've personally used their services. So tell us a little bit about what Enjoy is and how the new sponsor of the pod.
Yeah, Enjoy Vision was awesome. It was something that I really had never really thought about doing. To be completely honest, outside of, just not really feeling comfortable with the idea of going under any type of laser surgery with my eyes. And, I think he just got to the point where I was like, well, might as well. Let's try it out. And went to Enjoy. They were awesome. The entire experience, I mean, my mom dropped me off at 2:30 in the afternoon. I was back home by 6:30 that night. Obviously you go through the entire care. You go back one time a week and, for little checkups here and there. But outside of that, it was a very painless process, a very easy process. And, I think if it's something that if you wear contacts or you wear glasses, the idea of not waking up and thinking, oh shit, I need to go get contact solution from Walgreens or something was a very freeing feeling. So never having to worry about that, never having to go on trips and worry, am I going to have enough contact solution? Am I going to need to take my glasses somewhere? It's been pretty incredible to just wake up and be able to get out of bed and go. So, Enjoy Vision. I couldn't say anything much more about the process. They're actually giving away to any unofficial 40 listener $400 off LASIK.
Wow.
That's all you got to do. You just go to enjoywithme.com. That is the letter N, Joy withme.com, and use promo code U40 if you were interested in, trying out Enjoy Vision and getting LASIK. It's awesome. I can't say anything better about it. And it truly is one of those things, Carrie, that when I got it, I was kind of skeptical on I could see fairly well with contacts. Without contacts now, and obviously a post LASIK surgery, it has been everything does pop a little bit more. So couldn't say anything much more better about the just overall experience with Enjoy. They were awesome. and it's a fairly easy process to get into. So
Yeah.
enjoyvisionwithme.com or enjoywithme.com, promo code U40.
You have no excuse now for missing kickoffs.
I mean, that's why I caught one.
You had the vision when you caught one.
Yeah, I mean, if Toby Keith wants to get LASIK, he could come get it. I know he's the most famous person in Oklahoma, but either way, I'd even let him get it.
Okay. All right. Well, it is now time for us, the Enjoy Vision Fresh Perspective look ahead as we move into another week. Bedlam is coming up tonight. We've got signing days. We said we got more to talk about with the Big 12 schedule. But let's start with Bedlam. I mean, it's coming up, and so people driving to the game tonight won't make you listen through a whole hour podcast before we talk a little basketball. Be safe out there if you are listening to this while you're driving. I would say, I don't know about you guys, but I know the worst weather game for me to ever come to, and there have been several, and by the way, kudos to Oklahoma. They've made the game free tonight, so you don't even have to have a ticket. You can just come and not pay anything. I guess they'll give you a ticket, but I would imagine everybody will kind of, as happens with games like this, they just kind of crowd down to the floor as it goes along. I remember, I think it was 88 when OU played UNLV. Living in Duncan, my dad loaded us up in the Trey Tech conversion van, and it was snowing the entire way, and I thought we were going to die.
OU A&M?
UNLV.
Oh, UNLV. You're talking basketball,
game,
just
yes.
basketball. Okay.
And that was still, to this day, my greatest college basketball experience of my life. And that place was it was filled to the rafters. I mean, the snow didn't deter anybody. It was the best game in college basketball that weekend. This isn't that, but still,
It's Bedlam.
I mean, you still got one win in conference, even with that Alabama win.
Exactly.
You need a home win. You've got a team that,
They just beat you bad 2 weeks ago.
and Oklahoma State,
final 8
just like
minutes.
before, they watched all that tape with Sherfield against Alabama, and they're saying, we're going to shut him down tonight.
And that's where it started. He had 15 points in the first half of Bedlam and then 0 in the second half, and OSU outscored OU 48-26 in the second half just 2 weeks ago.
And that was the game where Jalen Hill pledged to never let the second half happen again.
And then you had TCU. And it's like, oh, well, dang it.
Well, that was an ass whipping from the beginning.
You got to figure it out. But and that's why my kind of storyline for this week was Saturday was incredible for everyone involved with the program, but that doesn't do anything going forward. That didn't punch your ticket into the tournament. That did help you within the Big 12 conference. How do you build off of that? How do you avoid the emotional letdown? I think Porter Moser's the right guy to sort of make sure that's not a factor, but I'm just sort of wondering because even on Tuesday, you still had a lot of people talking about what that moment was like Saturday. It's like, well, now you got to get back to it.
What did Avery Anderson do so well against Grant Sherfield in the second half of that game in Stillwater?
I know.
Because it was every time that he came into the game, it was like he just covered him up.
He was tremendous. I believe Grant was 0 for 8 when Avery was going against him, and I just thought they did a tremendous job of making him work as hard as possible for anything, and that's the growing trend that was becoming very disturbing. Is that Grant would come out fresh as a daisy and look really good in the first half, but he has to do so much work. You don't have it in him to do that for 38 minutes every single game, and that's why it's so key for Bijan, Cortez, and Miles Uzan to be able to handle the ball as much as possible to give Grant a little bit of a breather so that he's fresh and can take this team home during those final minutes.
Let's be honest. This team's a lot better when Tanner Groves doesn't get into foul trouble and he contributes in some manner. I mean, he's probably coming off one of his best games as a Sooner, just from a whole perspective of doing a little bit of everything.
Well, and just the intensity overall.
Yeah,
I mean, they punched Alabama in the mouth. They did not respond. And that was a team that we haven't seen a team be that aggressive and just say, this is our game, we're going to go take it.
Almost more impressive than the 50-point first half and the 17-point lead at halftime was the response that you got in the second half when Alabama did make that run.
Yes.
And then they extended it back out, and it was kind of game over after that.
I was waiting for Brandon Miller to have a Cade Cunningham-like performance from a couple of years ago when he just wouldn't let Cowboys lose.
42 in overtime.
At Lloyd Noble. Instead, Jalen Hill and that defense was able to keep him at bay, and then they got it going, once again to where it was by 29 at the final media timeout. Like, we're so used to these one-possession games, back and forth. How's the last 5 minutes going to go? This is by 29. The only question was, would they storm the court? And with 2 minutes to go, you're like, yeah, they're all getting down there. The yellow coats are going to make sure they don't hit the players, but they're going to open up that court and let them have some fun.
What did you make of what Porter Moser talked about after the game with Jalen Hill and just how good he's been defensively this year? Is there like a real true case to be made that he should be a first-team All-Defensive Player of the Year?
There is, but I don't think anyone's going to look hard enough at what he's doing. Because he guards 1 through 5.
Yeah.
It's so hard to pinpoint, he's always going to shut down that guy. No, sometimes he has to shut down the center. Sometimes he has to slow down the point guard. So it varies from game to game. You'd have to look at his whole body of work to truly appreciate it. But, yeah, he's been sensational. He's been that way since he arrived in Norman, but he's taken it to another level, both on offense and defense, as Big 12 conference play has started.
It will be interesting, and this is, it's kind of ironic that I'm talking this way a week after I tried to end the basketball program. There were just some questions that need to be, asked. I was just asking questions out into the ether is basically what that was last week. You do have an ability in this conference that each time you lace it up, and this week is a little bit strange in that you're not having to play 2 top 25 teams. But
first time in 2023.
Let's hypothetically, if you get to 5-6, if you were able to win Wednesday night in Norman against OSU, and then go on the road and win in Morgantown, which is going to be tough. It's an 8 o'clock tip-off in Morgantown on Saturday night. But if you were able to get to 5-6, and then you have Baylor and Kansas next week, it certainly offers an opportunity, doesn't it, to really kind of get back into this thing. And I mean, like, truly, like, really make some moves up the, I guess not top 25 poll, but as far as seeding and that kind of stuff goes with the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, instead of teetering between first 4 out, last 4 in, not even being in those, last 4 buys, just being in the field and feeling comfortable with where you stand. And, this is the only week where they won't have a ranked opponent. So you feel like they got to make the most of it. But West Virginia, at least going into last night, I actually didn't look this morning. They were 25 in the net ranking.
It's
that's
a tough game.
It's not going to be easy, and going on the road is never going to be easy. But you would definitely, you'd have a 3-game winning streak going into Waco, and then have Kansas coming to Lloyd Noble next Saturday. It's just, you just have to, as Porter said time and time again, short-term memory, just keep going. There's nothing else you can do. No one's going to cry for you. No one, we get it. The schedule's tough. But what are you going to do about it? Well, how are you going to make the best of it? And, that's why I'm very curious just how quickly, because we know how they can bounce back from a terrible performance, like against the Frogs. Now, what do you do after the best one that you've had in at least the last couple of seasons?
Even after a loss in Fort Worth on Tuesday night, West Virginia is maintaining at 25 this morning as of taping, and you have Oklahoma State obviously coming in tonight at 45. Oklahoma hanging out at 54 right now. So there's obviously a lot that can, you're going to move up each time that you win a game here from here on out.
Yeah, that two-week stretch was brutal where OU went from like 43 to 67, and then that one win got them back into the 50s, and I would think if they were able to win Bedlam tonight, they'll be inside the 40s, and that's where you got to keep it at. If the net ranking is what matters the most, you can't be too far behind. You can't be in the 50s and 60s and kind of clinging for hope that you deserve to have a berth in the tournament. You got to solidify your case throughout this next month.
As much as it was, kind of about the bench players, and Bryce Thompson obviously had a really good second half up in Stillwater. I thought that you go back and you look at where that thing went south for Oklahoma in the second half, and obviously, Porter's talking about it after the game, just as far as they were scoring in the second half. They just couldn't get any stops. So you got to be able to get something on the defensive end tonight. And then, I thought John Michael Wright was good for Oklahoma State. Woody Newton did a little bit for them in the second half. So it kind of goes back to the role players for me tonight with Oklahoma, just as far as like what's Jacob Groves going to give you, what's CJ Nolan going to give you. Is Otega going to play more minutes than he saw? I think how many minutes did he
He played
play?
mop-up duty.
It was 1 minute.
He had the
he
dunk.
played well, yeah.
He had the dunk at the buzzer that no one appreciated.
Sure.
Still water.
Sure. Well, I think that there were some people that appreciated it because the dunk at the buzzer in Stillwater made the game go over. So that was definitely
Did it really?
Yeah, that was definitely appreciated by a lot of people. As I think we go off at 132.5 tonight. So,
but yeah,
it's a big one.
It's just intriguing to see if they keep the same mindset with the pace and the tempo that they had Saturday with Bijan, CJ. And it was really weird because if you do that, that takes Jacob Groves out of the game. And is that the recipe for success? He only played 11 minutes against the Tide, wasn't in any foul trouble. Just
wasn't giving him anything.
He wasn't giving him anything, so they went a different spot. If Groves, say he makes a couple threes, but the offense slows up, what is the trade-off? How is Porter going to work through that during the next month?
And it would be kind of interesting, too, just for the fact that I don't know if you can, I think that Oklahoma State's probably, just from a defensive standpoint, can you do that against the Big 12 teams? Play the up-tempo pace that they tried to play against, or that they did play against Alabama. That's going to be kind of interesting here moving forward, as if they are going to play that style. And, I think Tyler Neal made a point of it on Twitter to me that, everything looks better when you're making 68% of your shots. So
right, 6 of 8 from 3 in the first half.
What were the numbers coming into the Alabama game? I think they had made it was 5-4-5 was the amount of threes that they had made in the 3 games preceding, and they made 6 in the first half against Alabama. So it will be, obviously if they shoot the ball like they did against the Crimson Tide, I think they should win, and they should probably win, pretty comfortably. But I think the line going into tonight's 3.5. I don't know. I think OU wins by 7-8 points.
By the way, I know we don't cover women's basketball, not big into that, but want to send out a shout out to really the university and to Steph Curry. Kind of Taylor Robertson set the all-time record for threes in NCAA Division I, and Steph Curry was really cool to send her a video message before the game, invited her. Wasn't the greatest Thunder, game the other night, and a little tough at the end. It was fun. It was really fun in the third quarter. But they ended up pulling it out. Josh Giddey. Yeah, by the way, I hope you gave Josh Giddey some mustache advice because you were sitting right in front of him on Saturday.
I would never give that man advice on how to look. He's a beautiful man.
Do you have
I dapped him up. So what's up?
Dapped him up.
It's good to see Josh. He's one of my good close friends in Oklahoma City. And, I'll be on the float with him when we win the world title someday.
Did he give you a review of our newest neighbor, Mavericks, on Campus Corner?
I don't think he made it over to Campus Corner.
I think he probably made it over to Campus Corner.
I would bet. He can't. He's not 21.
Oh, that's true. He would have just went straight to the sorority house.
Has that ever stopped anyone else?
That's definitely can't go. Can't do it.
When KD was here, he would just stand outside of Market Street while the players were inside and talk to people.
What is Market
Street? Before he was 21. Baker Street.
Oh, Baker Street. Yeah.
Market Street is in Frisco, Texas.
I was like, what the hell is that?
It's a meat joint. Baker Street is now torn down.
It's now gone.
On
R.I.P.
Memorial. Yeah.
It's where Chris the Birdman Anderson used to
legendary.
sell ecstasy to Josh back in the day.
I have had a lot of Chris Anderson run-ins at Baker Street. That has happened.
He was like the king of the bar, wasn't he? That was even – I was
Yes.
almost too young to even come in underage. I was in high school back in those times.
For those that remember, it was this big, the bar was central in the restaurant or bar, I guess. And you'd walk around. It was just this big, all kind of like a workaround all the way around the big bar itself, where the bartenders are working. And in the back was where Anderson was always set up, directly back behind the bar. And it was his spot. I bet you, I saw him in there a dozen times at least, probably. That was a definite place where he spent some time.
There was an extreme addiction that probably led him back there time and time again, but he was basically the mayor of Baker Street.
And it's kind of Cougar.
Yes.
It was kind of Cougar Town, USA, too, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe so.
Not like
Yeah.
Groovy's Cougar Town, but North
was
Side
like,
Cougar
yeah.
Town. So,
Groovy's blasphemy is not going to be accepted anywhere.
no, I'm
here.
not. There's no
That's
blaspheme going on. I enjoy Groovy's. All right, there's nothing wrong with Groovy's, but
I think the first time I met Josh, he was at Groovy's. We were at Groovy's in the back corner.
wow.
Well, we're aware that is where I met my missus, correct?
Yes, I do remember that story. Yeah, which that's a
Okay.
very difficult thing to
Okay.
do because guys are pretty aggressive at Groovy's.
Yes. Well, I think
You don't
it's
have a lot
largely
of
because
time
Groovy's
to dip your lure in the water, if you will.
Groovy's makes a drink that is unparalleled in the city as far as its strength. And I don't care what drink you order. Like, you're going to get your money's worth at Groovy's. Like, they are...
Been a lot of Red Bull vodkas drank at Groovy's in my time.
Oh,
I don't know, how does it
Lord.
compete
Yes.
with the Long Island iced tea at Louis? That's pretty severe.
I don't really like Long Island iced tea, so I don't know if I can speak to that.
Those are pretty severe
I don't
everywhere.
know, like I'm sure I've had it. I don't really I don't know that I have a specific memory of it at Louis, probably because the times I've had it, I don't remember it all that well. But yeah. So now God, that could be a whole. We could do it. We probably should do like a summer segment of drinking around Oklahoma City, the places you would go.
We could do that.
I could get into some places on Western. I bet Eddie could do the same.
Sopango Lounge
and I'm a little
still
past
goes
my
hard.
That's
kind of become like
Now, speaking of being under 21, I think like Cock of the Walk was something you could get away with back in the day.
You probably could, and you probably still can.
I
to
think-
be honest with you.
I was going to say club special at Cock of the Walk. If that doesn't have you walking interestingly after one or two of those, you're a stronger soldier than I am. That is a serious drink.
The Sip has turned into quite the hangout for like
Has it?
people my age and below. Like that's like the spot to go right now on Western.
Wow. In my day, it was Tapworks was kind of the main hangout. And those are all
R.I.P.
gone now.
Yeah,
R.I.P. Tapworks.
another one.
There was
something
one on
in-
Western, and then there was one on
Oh, I didn't
Bricktown.
even realize that there was two of them.
Yeah.
The only one that I always knew
Bricktown,
was
too.
downtown.
Bricktown, yeah.
No, there was one right there across from, like right in that. Nothing's there now, but there was a Tapworks that was right there from the Split T.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking
remember
about.
that.
Caddy
I
corner
did not
from-
realize that that's what that was.
Yeah.
Or that was even
Maybe
over
it
there.
wasn't there for. Maybe it wasn't always a Tapworks, but in our day it was.
Wow.
Flips isn't still there anymore,
Oh, yeah.
is it?
Oh,
hell
Flips
yeah.
is
I was
still
there-
going
I was
strong,
at
yeah.
Flips on Friday night.
Okay.
Flips is surrounded by nothing but new shit. Like everything is
Yes.
hoity-toity around it, but it's still Flips.
And I will say, like on a nice spring day, Flips patio is still it's a top patio in Oklahoma City.
I mean, they cannot tear down the one place that I've seen Cherokee Ballard get into a fist fight in the parking lot.
Put some respect on that name. I like Cherokee Ballard.
You've told me that she's very cool.
She is.
That one night, though, I just saw a crazy woman fighting in the parking lot.
And I respect
And
that.
then everyone said that's Channel 5's Cherokee Ballard.
I love that. We need
I don't know if
we need
she was
more
Channel 5
opportunity.
then.
We need
Women
more-
can fight. That's fine.
That's right.
But those were the days when the douchebags would drive Ferraris up in there and everything. Because it was, Nichols Hills.
I think that's still probably
Yeah.
going on a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Now you just have to kind of go around the apartment complex that somebody burned down and nobody ever got into.
Oh, boy. That was something.
I
By the
mean,
way, Eddie
it's
still
funny
does-
how it just nobody ever talks about it anymore.
Yep.
Eddie
We're
still
good.
does not have walls in his apartment, so.
No, we're still working on that. It's a real trying time right now over at the compound.
I think, Josh, he's preparing me for when he has to call me and ask for bail money.
Well,
this
I
point.
thought about this morning if I need to like contact like one of my buddies that's a lawyer and like, do I need to get a lawyer involved in this? Because there's been no
Yes.
like progress.
Why don't you call Mike Morgan and have him send out 4 in your corner or whatever it
Because
is?
if I called Mike Morgan, he'd send him to the wrong fucking apartment with the way that he's doing things right now. Wave 2? This is supposed to be wave 3 of winter weather. There was no wave 2.
Yeah, it was all on Tuesday. They said it was going to be on Wednesday.
I mean, we're
Or it was
basically
all on Monday. They said it was going to be on Tuesday.
we're basically canceling school right now for dry roads.
We're
and cold.
canceling school for neighborhoods. I can't see bus. I just see my own neighborhood. I can't see that bus surviving.
The great Todd Lisenby said it best this morning. those kids can walk to the front of the neighborhood and get on the bus. Don't need to come into the neighborhoods. Just pick them up.
Slip and fall down and skin a knee. Though.
No, but that's the world that we live in right now.
All right. You know what we need right now? A palate cleanser. And what's better than that than primeshrimp.com? Go to primeshrimp.com, P-R-I-M-E-S-R-A. I'm not even going to spell that. P-R-I-M-E shrimp.com. And use your promo code SoonerScoop. And that will. Here's the deal: if you buy 5 packages or more, and now Prime Shrimp's packages, they're single packages. So $10.99. Say you want to get the New Orleans style barbecue shrimp. Let's say you want to get the signature Cajun seasoned shrimp for $9.99. Just keep adding those up. When you buy 5 packages, you get 20% off your entire order, and they will ship it right to you. So go check them out. Garlic herb butter, the French Quarter Alfredo. I think that is a lot of people's favorites. The lemon and cracked pepper chicken. Or you can just get the unseasoned if you're like Bob and you want to grill your shrimp. Just take them out of the bag, let them thaw out, put them on the grill, season them how you want. And it's just a restaurant-quality meal, less than 10 minutes. Just boil some water, throw it in there, and you're done. Maybe add some pasta to it. And it is just an easy, like I said, no mess, no fuss, restaurant-quality dinner. That's primeshrimp.com. Go check them out. Use that promo code SoonerScoop and get 20% off all orders of 5 packs or more. Okay, the schedule was released. I think it's time we kind of really dig deep into that, and we talked a little bit about it there with the Enjoy Vision look back and what we missed last week since we potted. But obviously, this came out yesterday. I thought the two most interesting things, or the most interesting thing was 2 teams, Oklahoma and Texas, made no effort to
still have it.
No press release, no social media. Like, they just let the Big 12 put it out there, and that was it.
It's not a coincidence, right?
No. I mean, and it just kind of goes to show, like, but here's the thing, like, what does that mean? Like, I'm trying to figure it out. What does that mean that they did not put is that them not putting their blessing on it? Is that feeling like, okay, you made us play the Thanksgiving +1 games, and we didn't want to do that. We told you we didn't want to do that. Like, I don't know how that matters because, like, OU and Nebraska used to play the day after Thanksgiving. I mean, this is nothing new in the world of OU football. I just don't know what the rub could have been where they just couldn't be like, we're not putting it out there.
I think that it's probably – I mean, the only thing that I can kind of – I guess it hints towards is what I think a lot of people kind of expect at some point in between now and the time that they open camp in August is that it's announced that – this is probably going to be the last year of the Big 12, and they just don't want to promote it.
We're not celebrating anything because this isn't our conference anymore.
Yeah,
we want people to have a hint that we don't.
I thought maybe they just wanted to play the original members. I didn't think they wanted to play any of the new guys.
I don't think that they're like that naive and thinking that they would be able to have any shots called, right?
Yeah, but that's what they wanted.
Yeah,
they didn't come close to that.
Why? I don't know. From an OU perspective, I love the idea of going to 2 new places. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I say that, and they could very well go out to Provo and get beat. They could get beat in Cincinnati, but, like, it's not like they didn't get screwed.
No. I mean, when you're missing Baylor, Tech, and Kansas State, that's 3 of your losses from last year.
Yeah.
Yes.
To me, the most curious – I'm sorry, Josh, if you wanted to jump in there.
No. It's just one of those things where, I'm with Eddie. I am starting to, and we can get into that a little bit, but I'm growing more and more of a feeling that this is the last year in the Big 12. Like, I'm just talking to some various people, and I've talked to you guys about that some privately. Like, I think that's gaining momentum.
One of the questions that I do have as far as, like, and I know we're talking about the schedule, and I don't want to derail it here, but, like, one of the questions I have as far as when the move would be made, would OU and Texas, would they also compete in basketball? Like, would you finish the entire sports calendar? Would you play baseball in Big 12 next spring, or would you start in the SEC? Like,
if it's 24, yeah, I think they play everything all the way through 23.
Right. So they would play basketball in the Big 12 next year.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
No.
I'm saying no.
Because it would start in the 23.
But it would start in 23.
So you're
that's
saying
true.
if what I'm saying is correct, and what Eddie hinted at as well, you think this could be OU's last season as a Big 12 basketball team?
I kind of think that they would finish basketball.
Right. It would be the 24-25 calendar year, which is the 24 football season.
So you would get one more run of
sense.
everything.
Yes.
Football, softball, baseball, basketball, soccer, everything, and then you make the move. That would make the most sense to me.
And for those spring tours, that means two baseball, softball, this one, then the next one. Sorry, it's not
right.
But the way it's playing now is like football would move next year. I mean, after 23 is what I'm saying.
Yes,
right. But you still have basketball
but
at
you
the end of
still
that
have-
23. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think you go all 23 all the way through softball and baseball, and then everything moves.
Yeah.
But see, that'll be confusing people just because those go into 24.
Right.
But that's the tail end of the 23, not the start of 24, 25.
Right. No, I think I mean that would be
that would
like
make the most
a
sense.
that
count.
would almost be like if they were going in 24, then you put softball now. No, they'll play softball this year. Then once football starts, everything is moved over.
That would make sense because football's the technically, or I guess soccer technically is the first sport
volleyball,
out of the
football.
Well, and the Big 12 needs that because of their TV package. Like, they don't want to keep giving money to OU when the NCAA tournament gets here, whatever softball generates. I mean, I'm sure it's more revenue now, but they want to get their schedules worked out, too, where everybody is playing everybody and it's set. And so it's just too much of a mess to try and have, piece it to where basketball is still a part of it in 24.
That makes sense. All right, back to the schedule.
So the other thing that I thought was interesting is just Oklahoma State. Like, how does that happen? Do
Missing
they let
all the
that
Texas
happen?
schools outside of Houston.
It just seems like a bad idea for them. But maybe it's one of those things where Mike Gundy knows, like, look, we don't want to go into Texas. This is going to be a terrible team next year. We don't want to embarrass ourselves, like playing other teams. And it's such a defeatist attitude, though, if that's what they did.
I don't how did they go about the scheduling? Like, how did they go about deciding who's going where and who's going to play who's going to miss who?
They had to tell their members, like, submit what is your must-haves. Like, what is, like, rank them, like, 1 through
We'll do the best
9 or whatever. Like, what are the teams that you really need or feel you have to have on your schedule? So I'm sure OU put Texas and Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
OSU got Bedlam at Stillwater.
OSU would have put Texas up there, wouldn't they? I mean, they beat them every year, it seems like. I mean, it helps with their season ticket packages. Like, you look at it right now, like, why am I buying a season ticket to OSU other than Bedlam? That's it.
Was it for OU?
BYU is probably, they got to play Kansas State. I mean, nobody looks at Kansas as but Cincinnati there, I mean, it's just weird.
Yeah.
Guys,
it is. Go ahead, Josh.
If you're UCF, are you not pissed? They're the one school of the new 4 that didn't get a home game with OU or Texas. And we all know those are the premium draws. Those are that OU, I mean, and far be it for me to say anyone from Orlando deserves anything good to ever happen to them. But
my boy,
UCF, like, I'd be pissed. I mean, like, you get Baylor, West Virginia. Now, they do get Oklahoma State, which is, I would say, with the exception of TCU, of the remaining Big 12 is probably the biggest name that remains. But I just assumed they were going to do OU goes to 2 of the new ones and Texas goes to 2 of the new ones and call it square. But I almost think Texas had to be like, fine, we'll do Houston. We don't want to do Houston. Houston is beneath us, but that's all you're getting if you're going to send us to Houston.
It kind of feels like that Houston-Texas game has been set up since the moment that this thing was announced. Like, it feels
like we'll join if you'll send Texas here next year.
Right.
I don't know, though. I mean, if you're Texas, though, I don't think the Big 12 gave them any preference. I think the Big 12 said you can have OU, and that's all we're guaranteeing next year. You can have Dallas because it makes you money and sells you season tickets, but you have no other say. I could see it being that way.
God, we would all hate it, and we would be screaming from the rooftops right now. But what a flex would it have been if Big 12's like, no OU Texas this year. They just take it away like that. I haven't even thought about that until this moment, but that would have been just elite trolling from the Big 12.
That would have probably resulted in
Lawsuits.
Yes.
Lawsuits, but also a phone call from a television partner saying, hey, you know that new contract that we just signed?
We're going to tear that up unless
you better
fix
rethink this
Yeah.
little decision about not having OU and Texas, the two premier programs.
Well, that's the thing, too, though. Like, ESPN and Fox probably wanted to have some say in this as well. I mean, that's something that nobody's talked about. Like,
Sure.
They don't want terrible matchups. They didn't want the Big 12 to come in and sabotage OU in Texas. I mean, they want OU to go out to BYU. They want that TCU-OU Thanksgiving Day game. I mean, it's crazy because we were talking about this morning, but, like, what to expect in the conference next year? Like, who can figure that? Like, I was like, I'd probably put Kansas State as my preseason number one sitting here today, but I didn't even know exactly what they're losing because they were like an ancient football team with COVID and all that stuff last year. I mean, like Oklahoma State, how far are they falling?
On paper, if we're just talking about on paper,
TCU lost a bunch.
It should be Texas, shouldn't it?
I think that's what I said. Is I think the way it happens every year,
Just
is
on paper.
Texas gets overvoted though by the media and the coaches. Like they always get more first place votes than they should have. This year, I think they're going to be the preseason number one.
Looking at just on paper again. OU should be probably, I don't know about pick to win the conference, but just their schedule-wise.
Right.
I know that people are
sets
talking
up
about on the board and stuff. It's like if, Venables doesn't get to 9 wins this next season, he's not the guy. I don't know if I'm there yet, but they should be able to rack up a lot of wins, and they'll be favored in a lot of games. Like, if you make the steps that you're supposed to make.
Oh, I think this is...
I mean,
this
how
is
many
gonna be a
one-possession
problem.
games can you lose?
It's going to be a problem if we don't do this next year, but I think after last year, people are going to expect us to do a Doom Pod again.
Well, I mean,
because we didn't
somewhere
do
in
one
between.
last year, and people were upset if we would have pointed out all the things that could go wrong. Like, that's what happened in the 11-1, 11-2 season or whatever. Like, all the stuff that we pointed out could go wrong pretty much went wrong.
Yeah, but I think I am a little
And
bit.
OU listened to us, and they addressed what they could.
I am a little bit blinded in that, like, I don't know. As weird as it is to say, I feel almost reassured that this staff is going to be able to figure this thing out with what they were able to do in closing this class and going into the portal and getting guys to still buy in and come back to what, at times I think with the way that things went down in a 6 and 7 season that, if you didn't believe in what they were doing as a program, you could have very easily entered the portal and got out of here. But with the amount of guys that did kind of sign back up, if you will, it makes me think that this thing is headed in the right direction. And maybe last year was just kind of a shit year as far as winning games late.
Here's the thing about what we don't know. And I think, like, they're mirror images of each other, but opposites. Like, we don't know if OSU is going to be any good, but we think they might be terrible. We don't know how good OU is going to be, but there's a chance they could be really good. Like, OU trends towards the positive just as much as OSU trends towards the negative.
I think a lot of that has to do with just the last 20 years, right?
No, it has to do with the fact they lost their quarterback.
Go quarterback.
And they had a mass
quarterback runs
exodus
everything.
on the defense, the offense, no receivers. Like, they're recruiting Division III guys or taking transfers from Division III. Like, I just don't know who's going to fall. Like, tell me why Texas should be number one. I know that's what we think will get voted in, or I do at least. But, I mean, start going through there. You're going to find some holes. I'm telling you. I mean, their offensive line is the best thing about Texas coming back next
I
year.
think that, like, a lot of the idea that they're going to be better is talking, and you start at the quarterback position and say, well, Quinn Ewers should be better.
But you've also got to realize that Texas fans have an expectation that Arch Manning is coming in and starting right away.
Well, those people are idiots.
But Quinn Ewers, if he plays like he did last year, they're going to boo him off the field.
No, and it's a very
his accuracy was a disaster. I mean, like, is it the year? Like, his best game was against Oklahoma. It was all downhill from there. We talked about that.
Yeah, no, it is, and
he can't play that way and survive with Arch Manning standing on the sideline next year.
It does seem like, though, that if you can just throw the ball forward, if you can get the ball out of your hand. They have some guys that if you can just get the ball in their hands.
I don't know, Josh. I mean, do they have running backs? waiting in the wings at Texas?
Yeah, that freshman kid's going to be good.
They signed Cedric Baxter, who for some was the number 1 running back in the country. Like he is a legitimate guy. They've also got, you look, Jonathan Brooks really highly regarded. The Keelan Robinson's kid's a good player.
We can't look at Gavin Sawchuk in the bowl game and say like, oh, OU's okay now, and then just say Texas can't do the same thing, especially with that offensive line.
Guys, we know how it is. Like Texas's problem has always been the line of scrimmage. And you look at who they return, and there's some good pieces there, but I don't think it's anything. That's the thing. Like, it's not like it was, even just a few years ago for Oklahoma, where the margin for error is large. Like, all these teams have flaws, like have problems. I can absolutely see a case where Oklahoma's the best team in the Big 12, but based on what we saw last year, how do I have confidence in that? Like, how do I believe that will happen? I think there's going to be a big step forward this year, but guys, I thought they were going to win the Big 12 last year coming into the season.
Sure.
Like, I thought they were the best team, and but at the same time, like, if you look at a team, probably with the exception of Oklahoma State, that has a chance to go nuclear, like Texas has some of that stuff. Like the whole Xavier Worthy thing is weird. Your defense is graduating a lot of, some older guys, bringing in some younger ones. There's, I don't know. There's some elements there that just seem, and then of course, what happens if Quinn Ewers plays the first half of next year like he played the last half of this one? Like what happens there? Like you've got Arch Manning just waiting, and everybody is already ready to move on from Quinn Ewers and anoint Arch Manning the guy. But I mean, that's got Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams vibes. Yep. And I don't think there is as much talent around Manning and Ewers as there was Williams and Rattler to kind of bail out some of those problems.
Especially when you're going to Bama instead of Bama coming to your place.
Bama's going to be really pissed off.
Yes.
Next year.
And Nick Saban had a man look him in the eye and tell him he no longer ran the SEC. Alabama's going to be on a warpath next year. Like, they are going to kill people. A pissed off Nick Saban, that's terrifying.
Meh.
Okay.
That thing's over.
Okay.
It's up. Yeah. But guys, I'm trying to look at the
And
Kansas
I say
State
that
roster.
with a smile. I don't believe that.
But there is and again, I'm looking at our lads, which is what always pulls up when you ask for over a depth chart of any school, and it's unreliable, and you can't tell who they've really moved off the roster and that kind of stuff. But looking at it, if it's any of it's to be right, it is unbelievable how many guys they could lose off this roster. Like, I'm trying to make sure I've got some of this right, but like obviously Deuce Vaughn and DK Azama is, they lost. If what I'm looking at's right, they will also lose every single specialist on their roster, from the punter to the holder to the kick return game, like everybody. Now, again, I'm not saying I'm sure of this, but it's clear Kansas State has taken a huge hit, and we know TCU is in the same boat.
It is interesting, and the school that I guess we kind of have to talk about, just because, and ironically enough, Oklahoma doesn't play him. Like, what's to be expected in Joey McGuire's second season out in Lubbock? I don't think anybody had them winning 9 games this past year.
That's a sneaky team, man. Like, I think they're going to be pretty decent next year. I kind of like what they're
got. The quarterback coming back again, which kind of checks that box if that's where we're starting with everybody at quarterback.
I thought about Texas Tech, but the one that I wonder the most about is Kansas.
Yep.
I mean, Leipold he's building something. Like, I don't think it's going to go down.
I just don't know if it can go up. Does that make, like, maybe get to 8? Is that like a ceiling for Kansas? 8, 7, or 8
they were,
wins?
6-0 before the quarterback got hurt?
Yeah, I don't know. Were they going to truly go beat anybody, though? Kansas?
They might have beaten Oklahoma.
They're
coming where
if they had their quarterback, Oklahoma's not in a bowl game, in my opinion.
TCU on the ropes. It's 31-31. 2 minutes ago in the fourth.
I just don't know how, from a longevity standpoint, if they can continue to keep that thing leveled. I don't know.
Well,
maybe
guys,
not. Maybe that I'm not giving enough credit. Like, I just feel like a lot of that, I don't know. There were some factors in play that won't always be there. It was almost like a special season, if you will.
I feel like we need a thumb bet, maybe. By the way,
it begs the question though: what gets you in to the championship game? Like, I could see a world where 9 wins get you into the Big 12 championship next year.
It's going to be a little bit of a shit show with the 4 new teams. Like, I don't think Houston's always going to be Houston to me. I know that kind of sounds bad, but
I think
I love Dana. I love Dana, but Dana Holgerson teams just are kind of what Dana Holgerson teams are. Maybe every 3-4 years they're going to be really, really good, but they're usually going to underperform.
They'll do something stupid or undisciplined during a game when something
very
really
much
matters.
But we'll see. Like, BYU, I think could be a long-term type of deal. I don't really think much of Cincinnati. The team that's like not necessarily scary. I think a lot of Gus Malzahn, and you don't have to go very far to recruit very well in Orlando.
It'll be interesting. I mean, because like West Virginia,
you could say the same thing about Houston.
West Virginia thought they were going to get this great bump from going to the Big 12, but they're out in the middle of nowhere. UCF is going to get a bump, but they're right in the middle of it. Like, to me, they're the ones that really BYU does what BYU does. It's
always going to be a little bit of a unique scenario, isn't it?
Right. So to me, UCF is the one that I think 5 years from now we're like, okay, they really made something out of this.
I will bet UCF has won multiple Big 12 titles in like the next 6 or 7 years. Ooh. Like, I think they are going to be a real problem in that conference.
It was a big win for them to be able to go out and get somebody like a Gus Malzahn. Might be kind of a perfect fit for him too.
Mm-hmm. All right, want to remind you guys, Dead Soxy, great sponsors of the pod, DEADSOXY.com. Go check them out. As they have just some of the best socks that you're going to find out there. Great, like I said, always supporting the pod. Want you guys to support them. Use that promo code SCOOP. Use a promo SCOOP for 25% off your entire order. And don't forget, they also have corporate and charity socks that you can get. If you get a minimum of 100, they'll work with you, and they'll give you $100 off your first order of 100 socks. And lots of great designs. As I've been telling you guys, we're working on them. Should have those soon. The U40 socks coming out. So deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY, the no-shows, the boardroom, all of it. Just great, comfortable socks. Go check them out. And as always, stay soxy. Okay, it was signing day today. I guess, I saw Brent's comments and you kind of talked about a lot about your evaluation of him, Josh. But a 6'5" guy that plays pretty much every position on the field, is it really just kind of up in the air? Do you see them starting him somewhere and then seeing how it goes? I mean, you've got to start him somewhere. Like, you can't just say, okay, you're going to play defense today, you're going to play offense tomorrow. You can't do it that way. So where do you see him just in your evaluations make it? I feel like you really want to see this kid go be a defensive end.
You guys know me. I mean, it is literally a crutch of my life that every good athlete with length, I want to put them on defense. Like, I just that is a standard. That's a baseline of my existence. But I think he starts at tight end. I think that's probably what it is. Now, I've said it before. I think what's interesting is, does that give OU the flexibility to move Cade McIntyre around? Does he maybe get a look? Like, hey, we're not saying tight end's not going to work, but let's start you at defensive end or, something like that and see how that goes, because Cade is just so much more physically developed, such a big, strong guy. His dad could probably come play defensive tackle for OU. So, I mean, like, they are he's just a different body type, where Heim, I think, has a chance a little quicker to work as that kind of that flex tight end. Because, guys, I mean, he's lean. Is he that different from Caden Helms when Caden Helms was coming in? Probably not. I mean, like, he's just not as well known as Helms was, but their body types are very similar, very long. And, so I think Heim probably starts at tight end. And like I said, to me, the interesting part of that is, what does that do with McIntyre? Do they keep him at tight end where we've, kind of always been led to believe that's where he would start? Or do they move him around a little bit and let it see, kind of kind of watch both of them and say, oh, maybe we've got this reversed, or maybe both need to be tight ends, or just kind of let it play out from that point.
Josh, we were talking about comparisons earlier. You know who he kind of reminds me of? He reminds me a little bit of Joe John, body-wise.
Did you read the article? Like I was
no.
Right before we were starting the pod, I was finishing. That's exactly who I compared him to, because like the movement skills are simple. People don't remember Joe John Finley was a really good athlete. Like played quarterback at Arlington High. Like was a very good player. And Oklahoma was it was a very similar deal where they were just like, this is a 6'6" guy who can run. Like we can find something to do with him. And, obviously had a nice career, turned into a good player, all the things you're looking for. But, yeah, I think there is a lot of similarity. And, Joe John now may not like to hear it, but, go back and look at the Joe John Finley of high school. They're locks. They're kind of flowing. There's some similarity there.
We went and did that interview with him last week before he committed, and he is every bit of 6'5". Like, that's not a inflated height. I just looking at him, he looks like he's somebody that can, carry a lot of weight, or a lot more weight than he already has. He's going to obviously need to add some. So anytime that you can add a kid that's 6'5", and if he truly does run a 4.47, which he runs track, he was a state champion in the long jump. Like he obviously is extremely athletic. I'm intrigued. I don't know if he's going to go on to win a Mackey Award at any time in his career in Norman, but like consider me intrigued. And, I think that, I don't know if this is biased or not, but I'll be cheering for him because he's an Oklahoma kid.
Homer. I just want to grab my mic real quick.
That's fine.
Scream it out.
I would cheer for him just as much as I was cheering for Justin Brooks.
Homer about. Like,
I don't know why there's a rattle in the office, though. Oh, it's just pills.
Ooh, what kind?
Prescription. Non-prescription. Damn. I think it's heartburn medication, actually.
No, I don't know. Man.
The taco truck next door,
We'll crush them up. We'll see.
Josh, save us.
And talking about that, I mean, and I do want to be clear. I don't know that Oklahoma is done in 2023. For those that have kind of forgotten, Michael Nokwacha, the big defensive lineman from Tyler Junior College, he's still out there. He's still in play. Has told me he we were talking before the pod about the possibility of more and more guys not signing in this January period because there's a debatable point of why they should. Like, what does it serve for them to do? And there are some things I've heard, of ways they could incentivize that. But I'm wondering if that becomes a pattern of behavior. But what Michael has said, he said it, in early January, he was not going to sign today, wasn't really expecting to sign, I don't think, in February. Like, I think now maybe that can change over time. Maybe some schools decide, hey, we're going to go in a different direction, or, we feel our needs are elsewhere or whatever. But as it stands, his plan was to take he was going to take an unofficial to Oklahoma at some point, and then wanted to take his official like in March to Oklahoma. So the 2023 class, just because today is signing day, it's not like the first one where you've got 72 hours to sign and that's pretty much it. This window goes on for a long time. If these guys can sign, and again, they can just not sign, and then they enroll in July, in June, wherever they want to go. And once they walk into that first class, hey, it's all in. So there is, I think you got to be careful of there being some ideas of like, okay, this class is finished. And it's not. Now, Nokwacha is an interesting guy, big, long, athletic guy. It'll be interesting to see if OU feels, once they've gone through a little bit of spring ball, if he's still part of the plan. And he may be. It just, like I said, I think there is some volatility with him. TCU is involved there. So there's several possibilities that are going to be interesting to watch. I know Arizona State's tried to get involved as well. So just kind of keep an eye on him. And like I said, I don't think anything immediate is going to happen there, but we'll keep tracking that. And then obviously moving forward with 2024 following, the big junior day over the weekend, and we can certainly get into that.
Well, you mentioned if he wants to see OU, he's going to have to wait till March because this is a dead period this entire month. Mm-hmm. So if he doesn't feel comfortable and still has to weigh out his options. He has no choice but to go into March.
And that, again, like I said, he was expected, I think 2 weeks ago, the second to last weekend for official visits in January, I want to say he was at Houston, and then I think he hit TCU last weekend. I'm trying to remember. He laid all this out, and then we got into junior days, and I won't say that I've put it all to memory clearly, but I think he'll get back to Oklahoma at least once more before he does anything. So that, like Bob just said, that kind of puts in perspective. It's going to be a little while if it is going to be Oklahoma, and if it's not, then nobody listening gives a shit anymore. So it kind of works out perfectly. Yeah. So I mean that I don't think we have a lot of Horned Frogs listening, but maybe.
You want to go to Junior Day?
Yeah, let's do it.
This one felt weird, Josh. I guess maybe there wasn't as much of an explosion on social media from the event. We kind of knew there weren't going to be any commitments. So kind of summarize what went right, or how this last weekend went.
Yeah, I want to be clear that I thought Oklahoma had I thought it went really well. Talking to the guys, there was a lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm. I think some of the guys that really loved it, like Jeremy Payne, the running back from Houston, a guy that, I know both myself and Nick Harris have put in a forecast to Oklahoma. He's very high on OU right now. I don't think the visit did anything to hurt his feelings. Really has a good relationship with DeMarco Murray. And just talked about, I think it was one of the things that was a common thread, and not just for, and for all these guys, not just Jeremy, was the soul mission. Like, you could tell Oklahoma really spent some time putting that in front of the guys. I think one guy said it was like a 30-minute presentation or something. I mean, they really, this wasn't just like, oh, hey, and here's Caleb Kelly and the guys from our soul mission. Like, it was something they sat down, they talked about what the goals of the program are, what they're trying to do. And I think a lot of these guys, it really hit home. And I think in large part because those guys are ex-players. I mean, like, they know what these kids are about to go through. They've got a better feel for it. And I think that was something that hit a lot of, hit the right notes for a lot of guys. Another guy that I don't know what OU's chances are going to be. He's a kid from Louisiana that LSU offered literally the day he was driving up to Norman. So I kind of thought, oh God, his head's Dominic McKinley, the big offensive lineman from Lafayette, Louisiana. I was like, I don't know where his head's going to be, but just talking to him, he was like, it was amazing. Like he said something like, I'm having trouble putting it into words. Like, and you're like, wow, okay, that's something. Now, again, do I think that changes LSU probably ending up being his choice like they are for most Louisiana kids? No, I'm not going to say that, but I think it puts into some context how big the event was and how well it went for a lot of these guys.
Coming off of it, is there anyone you feel better about? Like, I know Michael Hawkins was back in town. Any sort of not quite future cast or forecast yet, but you're getting closer to heading in that way?
Well, I put one in for one of the guys that was there. That's Bryant Wesco, the receiver from Midlothian. And I know people, I put it in Woke this morning, and people are like, oh, it's a 3-star. 3-star U is back, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that guy's a top 100 recruit in every other ranking but Rivals. Like, he's going to get a bump. Don't worry. Like, the update hasn't happened in 2024. I'd be very surprised if Bryant Wesco isn't a very respected target in very short order. But he has some connections to the school. Like, I just think he has been to OU so many more times than almost anywhere else combined that you're kind of like, at some point you got to read the tea leaves here and kind of see what's happening. But I think OU's in really good shape there. A little different storyline, a guy that kind of like McKinley that I wasn't giving OU a real chance at, and that frankly I didn't know was coming in until just a few days before the junior day itself, was Ty Anthony Smith, the linebacker from Jasper, Texas, which is kind of almost a little north and centralized between both Beaumont and Houston. for those that don't know Jasper, but I actually saw a playoff game up there this year. But anyway, very athletic linebacker, a little undersized, listed at 6'2", about 205 right now. But, man, you watch his tape, he's all over the field. It's not hard to figure why OU is really excited about him. Came up, and again, man, he talked a little about the soul mission, but not surprisingly, a linebacker kind of fell in love with Brent Venables. Like, he was just like, man, he was just saying, like, our personalities right off, they clicked, and he really was able to kind of speak to me and really hit on some of the things that I thought were important. And I don't think there's any question that he's already thinking about a return trip. And I don't think anybody was giving OU much of a chance. We'll see where it goes. Again, that's a fairly good location for both A&M and Texas. They've recruited that area pretty well. For those that don't know, it's kind of down. It's not quite in it, but it's an area called the Golden Triangle where a lot of guys come out of, a lot of players going to A&M and Texas from that, that Beaumont, Nederland area. And OU's going to try here. It's a head coach they're familiar with there at Jasper. He was a longtime assistant over at Manville. And so they know some of the pieces of that staff. There's some relationship there. So I think that'll be interesting to follow. But he was a guy that, like I said, I didn't think OU had a great chance with, and I thought they really impressed him over the weekend.
It kind of feels like I'm still getting used to this idea that not only is like big-time defenders going to come in and check out Oklahoma, but like just because
legit.
of who they are,
Yeah.
there's some legitimacy that, hell, they could sign someday. Like I'm still kind of getting over that shock factor, and I know that I shouldn't.
Well, guys, I mean, like we talk about it on this pod for years. Like, well, it's not that OU is going to get this guy, but it's a really good sign that he's coming in.
Yeah.
Like it was like before the visit even happened, you knew it was a consolation prize. You knew that, and I know, in the case of Dominic McKinley, it's kind of the same story. But again, recruiting, I don't care if you're Alabama or Georgia, recruiting in Louisiana against LSU is really freaking hard to do. So that's nothing to, be upset about or feel like something's gone wrong if it doesn't go your way. But two other guys I really should mention, and they are guys I think OU has been firmly involved with and very, very active in their recruitment, is Aaron Flowers, who I have a forecast in for Oklahoma, the defensive back from Forney, Texas, a guy that I had a chance to see in a playoff game. Big, long, good-looking athlete. I mean, exactly what you want as a defensive back. Real rangy, very, very natural in coverage. I think could play corner, could play safety, gives OU some of that versatility they really like. But he's been up to Oklahoma numerous times, really, really likes the staff. And I get the impression, if I was going to make a bet on the first 2024 commitment, he'd be in the running. Like, I don't think he's terribly far from doing something. I think he wants to take a few more trips, but I think Oklahoma's got a pretty special spot for him. And the other one is Casey Poe, the big offensive lineman from Lindale, another guy I got to see in the playoffs last year in Texas. Big athletic guy. We all had a chance to see him at camp last summer where he came up. We didn't really know him that well. Clearly was a guy from minute one Bill Bedenbaugh was zeroed in on and really paying a lot of attention to. And Casey's another one of those guys. Like, he plays tackle in high school. I think he could probably play it in a pinch in college. I think he's probably better as a guard type. He kind of reminds me of Drew Samia in some ways, has some nasty to his game, good athlete, very, very physical, and, comes from a good program there in Lindale out in East Texas. So there is he came away really glowing about the trip, really just, kind of this was amazing. And I'm trying to rack my brain for anybody that really and the last one, unless you guys have any specific questions, was Nigel Smith, the big defensive lineman from Melissa, one of the key pieces of this class for Oklahoma. They need to land Nigel Smith. And I think Miguel Chavis has done an outstanding job building a relationship there. Nigel really trusts him, respects him. He's got a good relationship with Nigel's father. They've OU's done a really good job there. And I asked Nigel, I said, what'd you think? And he goes, it was amazing as usual. And I said, well, how do they make it different, or can they make it different when you've been up there as many times as you have? And he goes, every single time. And I was like, that's a unique answer. Like, that's not something I usually get. It's more like, oh yeah, and it's kind of generic. But he was very, like, no, every time OU presents me something I haven't seen before. And I'm like, that says, like, those kind of answers that are, even if it was short and concise, it's thoughtful. And like, that's usually, again, not everything is meaningful, but it's a good tell when a guy is truly engaged in the visit he's in and doing, and noticing things that he hasn't seen before. Like if you made me pick right now, I think Nigel Smith goes to Oklahoma, but again, he's an elite defensive lineman. For those that aren't familiar, top 50-ish guy in the country. Oklahoma's going to have to battle for him, from beginning to end.
Oh, that sounds fine.
Junior day adjacent would be all the in-state offers. You don't have to go through all of them, but first, do you think some of these would have been made under the previous staff?
Yeah.
And is there one or two that you need to circle?
Does it speak to the talent base inside of the state of Oklahoma plus a focus on in-state?
I don't think there's any doubt that not all of these offers would have gone out under the previous staff, and certainly not on the timeline they have, because, like I said earlier, there were 30 offers last week and 5 were in-state guys. Now you've got the 3 Carl Albert guys, Trinae Washington, Xavier Robinson, and Tristan Harris. And then I'm going to sit here and go blank on the other 2. That's always the way this works. But, the thing to remember with all of these guys is, like I said, Elijah Thomas at Shakota was was one of the other 2, and Jaden Nickens at Millwood. Nickens is interesting just because, he's right now on Rivals in the class of 2025. He's the number 21 player in the country. It says a lot. That for some perspective, that's higher than where they have David Stone in the 2024 class. So it kind of gives you some idea. Nickens was a guy that had a good relationship with Emmett Jones at Texas Tech. I think that just kind of carried over, and Emmett, sat down, watched video with everybody, and they decided Nickens was a guy they needed to go all in on. Elijah Thomas, like I said, at Chakota, I love that kid. Explosive, really long. I think if it didn't work out at receiver, you slide him to DB. But I think in several of these situations, OU is clearly a very, very real option. I think Nickens is going to look around a lot. I think Oklahoma's absolutely a prime contender, but I don't think he's a foregone conclusion. Xavier Robinson feels like a guy, if OU pushes hard, I think he's going to have a hard time saying no. Has admitted to me he grew up something of an OU fan. His family, the whole thing. So I think that's going to be that was a big offer for him. Trinae Washington, we'll see. I think he's kind of an interesting guy. They've talked to him about some flex tight end. I think he wants to be seen more as a pure receiver. What does he think of that? Where does that go? And then with Tristan Harris and Elijah Thomas, I think OU is in good spot for Elijah Thomas. He really wanted that offer. And then with Tristan, he hasn't said a lot yet. Like I don't really know where he stands on some of this. But again, he's a Carl Albert guy. Head coach at Carl Albert is close with Jeff Levy.
Right.
There's a good relationship there. So there is. It's not accidental both that OU was very serious at Carl Albert because they have got just a ton of young good talent, and then secondarily that they were so aware of them because, like I said, there is a very clear connection between OU and Carl Albert staffs.
It's obviously not scholarship level stuff, but I absolutely love what Oklahoma's done in the preferred walk-on realm in this last 2023 cycle, getting a couple kids from Bixby, going up to Carl Albert and getting to Kwesi. I think that what they've done, does it mean that they're going to go win a national championship? Of course not. But just adding those types of players to the program, I would much rather see them do stuff like that than go out and invite a preferred walk-on from, wherever, California or something.
Yeah.
It means something to those kids.
OU knows they've got to rebuild themselves in state a little bit. They just do. Their relationship with Oklahoma high school coaching staffs is not what it was under Bob Stoops. There's not the same trust. And that's not really the fault of anyone in Norman right now. Guys, we know. I mean, there was if all things were equal, Oklahoma was going to take the kid from Texas or the kid from California. They weren't going to take the kid from Oklahoma. And you guys know me. Like, I'm not one that says, oh, you have to recruit here, you have to recruit there. But when you have elite guys in state, you need to have the relationships to where you can go land those guys. And too often right now, they're not doing it. The Luke Hazes, the Micah Teases. I mean, Tulsa is a war site right now for Oklahoma trying to land guys. That is, and it used to be, I mean, Jinx, Union, you go down Bob's guy, Carson Meyer. I mean, those guys were foregone conclusions. When OU offered, they were coming, and it's not that way right now. So they have got to do that. And people don't understand when Brent Venables goes in and talks to one of these coaches about his preferred walk-on. That coach knows Brent Venables could be 100 other places, but he's going to spend the time to talk to him about a kid that probably is never going to play a meaningful snap at Oklahoma. Let's just be honest about where these guys are. But they can help that team be better, and you're giving that time to that coach and letting them know, you're important. We want you guys to feel like our doors are open. You come down to Norman when you want to, come to the coaching clinics, do all these things with us. That's how you start to rebuild that relationship, not by going and recruiting the player that everybody wants, because everybody's coming for that guy. But I think that's the thing that I have heard over the last few weeks is that, and I think I put something up maybe in Scoop on Friday, but there was absolutely talking to some coaches, like, they are hitting the right notes. They are making those guys feel like they're important and that, they want to hear, what do we need to do to be better? What do we need to do to be more present? Make sure we're getting all the Oklahoma kids we can get.
It's just a fact. They've gone into some schools that they literally hadn't been into in 15, 20 years. Not even to go by and say hi.
Correct.
Guys, I mean, you remember like that first, this goes back to last winter.
Yes.
When all of a sudden, like, Brandon
Fairview.
Hall was in Velma, Alma.
Yes.
Or something. And you're like, what the hell is happening? Because even I'm like, I mean, I beat the drum for OkPreps like nobody, but even I'm like, oh, you probably didn't have to go there. Like that's okay. But, there were 6A schools that hadn't seen Oklahoma in years. And I know there's a lot of 6A schools that haven't had an Oklahoma player in years, and that's I get it. But you have to keep those relationships because it's not just about, that guy at, a shoddy program like Putnam City North or something. But no, I mean, like, it's not just about those guys being there because you don't know where those coaches may end up, where they may move to. So you have to have that constant, we're your guy, we're the guy to call. If you run into some freshman on Friday night that we need to know about, you want to have the relationship with the guy on the other staff that's going to give you a call and be like, hey, man, this kid lit us up. You guys need to have him on your radar, and you can be the first in. And that's the way it should be in your home state. But I think we know it hasn't been the last few years.
The top ranked.
Easy to make those jokes about PC North when your car's not in the parking lot to be keyed. Go key mine.
No, forget your car. I'll burn your house down.
Hey, the head coach is a patriot, man. It's all good.
My mailbox is deeply rooted into the ground, and it's all metal. So
It is.
I don't like those anyways. I go for the brick ones. I was going to say that, the top-ranked Putnam City North basketball program is going for another gold ball here coming up over the next couple months. But I'm sure if you want, and I need to check with Putnam City School District when they go back to school, which maybe never. I don't know. We'll probably have the Heisman Trophy on some type of display if Putnam City schools want to come by and see it.
By the way, Dan Lanning gets a nice win over Lincoln Ryan.
That just happened.
He was supposed to be a Trojan. Yep.
Well, I mean, would you want to go make a lot of money for Oregon, or go play in that defense out in Southern California?
Didn't exactly put together a real good coaching reel this last year.
They've lost a couple guys here recently. USC
Yeah.
they were supposed to close on.
Anyway.
Well,
the favorite thing
wish 'em the
so
best.
far, we're sitting here watching ESPN's National Signing Day, and it's a few guys here. And we all knew it was a few big names left, but it was nice seeing Shane Beamer land a nice Nicholas Harbor.
Because the Ducks were supposed to get him as of this. The Ducks had made a charge,
Okay.
and that was a real back and forth.
maybe it'll be the first Harbor to work out because Lance Harbor did not make it through high school.
Well, he ran into a knee problem, though, right? Like, that wasn't his fault.
Well, plus he had that slut of a girlfriend.
Well, that is true.
I mean, guys, we know about the crazy girlfriends. I mean, they can ruin a good quarterback's
I mean,
career.
that was a Brian Robinson situation that he had ready to take him down. Chris Robinson.
I got you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Chris Robinson. And Dalton Wood. Wow, what a name. By the way, was he committed to Florida State, Lance Harbor?
In the show? I think so.
I believe
yeah,
that's
I think
right.
That's right.
I believe that's right. Yeah.
I think
kind of makes me think I need to sit down and watch that in a while. It's been that and the program. I probably need to make a run through both of those. It's been too long.
I don't think the program will hold up
until August. I usually get back into it in August. Get both of those in before the start of the football season.
I just wish they would stop showing the national championship game and just show the playoff semifinals.
Oh, like on
Guys,
ESPN.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, because I'm usually like Eddie. Like, I'm like, okay, I need my few months to decompress. Like, I don't know if it's because Oklahoma showed so much life in that bowl game or what it is, but, like, there's a part of me that's like, man, I'm ready to go. Like, I want to see, like, I miss it already. Like, usually about March, I'm like, oh, I'm dying. But, you know, now I feel like it started earlier from this year. I'm a little more excited than I usually am at this point in the season.
Josh, have you gotten into any of the Senior Bowl stuff this week?
I almost, when you guys were talking basketball, I almost jumped in to be like, I want you guys to know I'm very much ignoring all basketball talk and focus very hard on the Senior Bowl at the moment. It has been on the entire time. I'm definitely watching. You know, obviously didn't get to see much yesterday, but definitely looking forward to watching it today.
I know that just from like stuff that I've read on Twitter, it sounds like Jalen Redmond had a pretty good one-on-one session yesterday. Mm-hmm. I know that there was a lot of national folks that had thrown.
Braden Willis, some blocking stuff.
Braden Willis, Eric Gray had a pretty good first day, I believe, just from what I like, kind of reading the tea leaves type of deal. But I guess just because there's so many guys in it, you know, as well as the Super Bowl with so many guys represented from Oklahoma, it is kind of it's kind of fun that the football season is, you know, goes well into February now.
By the way, interesting that Arizona State picks up Mr.
Jaden Rashada.
Rashada. Dillingham put in that work.
Kenny Dillingham, I don't know about work, but Kenny Dillingham will be putting in work into playing the game. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Just look at the staff that he has.
We won't say a bad word about him because when he was at Memphis, that dude worked as hard as he could to get into this state. He was the first guy that offered Jalen.
He is a huge part. I mean, I know David Glidden's at Memphis now, and David does a good job as well. But he's what really established like a beachhead for Memphis and Oklahoma, like recruiting the guys I've talked about forever. Where Oklahoma, you're like, okay, maybe they're not OU good, but they're definitely good. And you'd have Tulsa overlook them time and time again, and Memphis just came in and stole dudes year after year.
I just don't know about like that as well as things go for him. If he's really successful, that thing's moving on. It's moving out of Arizona State, right? It's just hard right now for me to like really buy into somebody building a program at an Arizona State.
Yeah,
but as I say that, like I realize that the world of college football is different, and there's going to be some of these places that pop up because of access to money. Access to cities, which Scottsdale/Tempe is awesome. Like I would go take I want to take an official visit to Arizona State, and I'm 35.
I'd say, Eddie, I mean, that's one of the greatest party schools in the country. I have a lot of trouble believing you wouldn't have a lot of interest in Arizona State.
It's a good thing Josh Giddey's not playing.
I'd go play golf at Arizona State. That'd be fun.
Good thing Josh Giddey's not playing for the Suns.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. It wouldn't be the worst thing. It'd be great for him. I'm sure he's cleaning up pretty well here, though.
Yeah. I Arizona State's one of those programs that I feel like I'm not telling you like they're going to go win a national title or anything like that, because obviously there's a long way to go. But I think Dillingham's really good. I think he's a good young mind, and at the same time, guys, there's a lot that like that population's really growing faster, getting a lot of people moving from California into Arizona. So you're getting more and more talent. And guys, look through the years, like damn near every other year they produce an elite quarterback out of that state. So if you can get those guys, I mean, you're doing something.
Well,
like
Phoenix,
you've got the piece you need.
Phoenix isn't far from Los Angeles. You can dip over there. It really kind of location wise, it's kind of a perfect little area. Maybe I am talking myself into it. I don't know how it's going to work out for him, but
I've made that drive. That's a really easy and nice drive, frankly. Like it's super simple. I did it when I was I watched Mark Andrews on a Thursday night and then drove to see Dallas Todd on a Friday night.
Well, they have
Los
that whole
Angeles,
loop around Phoenix too, so it's really easy to get everywhere.
Yeah.
I remember when you made that drive.
Sky Harbor's a nice airport.
Dallas Todd. That's a name that hasn't been uttered in a while. They had a DJ at the game, I remember.
It was amazing. And Dallas Todd had exactly zero catches.
You know, there is like a theme with guys that I think historically over the last 10 years that I've been working with you guys, that like when you go see somebody and he doesn't do anything, that's not usually a good thing.
Especially on offense.
Yes. Outside of like
defensive back,
cornerback or somebody,
yes,
like obviously they're not going to throw to him. We get that idea. But like if it's an offensive guy and he's not getting the football, it's not a good news.
Well, and even with the defensive guys, like if they're really an elite athlete, like that should be playing at a place like Oklahoma,
like Peyton
they're
Bowen,
going to be a slot receiver. They're going to be a return man. They're going to get some quarterback. Like they're going to find a way to have that dude impact the game. Like perfect example, Jacoby Johnson. Mm-hmm. Nobody messed with Jacoby. If you just watched him on defense, you'd be like, well, he's big.
Well,
I don't know anything else about him.
There you go.
But like you watch him on offense, you're like, dang. Like, okay. Like I don't know if this will translate, but I could see what you're buying into for sure.
I think it was our fault for going to see Lath Harlow. That was just on us.
You know, I follow him we're still friends on Facebook.
Are you?
And he is back in Tallahassee. And I swear to God, every other day he's selling a car to a Florida State football player. It's kind of funny.
Not bad.
He looks like he's doing very well, though. I think he has a family. He has a couple kids down there in Tallahassee.
Awesome.
He was always a really nice kid. It just, kind of didn't work out on the football side. I think his back was kind of messed up when he got to Norman anyways.
Right.
That was Lath Harlow. That's another name that's kind of out there in the OU football recruiting ether. Yeah.
Josh has always had like you almost had Arizona would have been dead to you if you would have went out there and Spencer Rattler had been suspended and didn't tell you.
Oh, yeah.
That also coincided with the hurricane too, didn't it?
It always. Well, no. So when I was going to go see him as a junior, that was when Harvey hit in Houston, so I couldn't go. And then I was going to go see him his senior year, and it was literally the week he got suspended was the game I was going to go to.
It was like the day that you were going, wasn't it?
Huh?
It was like the day that you were going to go. You're like, hey, I'm about to go to the airport.
We had talked that Sunday before the game, and I was like, hey, man, just want to make sure you're healthy, make sure you're all good before I, get ready to get out of here. And he was like, yeah, all good. And then, he didn't say anything else all week, and not like it wasn't like he didn't respond to me. Like we just didn't talk again. And then I want to say Wednesday night at 11, he hits me up and is like, "Hey man, I don't think I'm going to play this week." And I'm like, "Oh, you okay? Pull a hammy or something?" He goes, "Yeah, just just being being careful, cautious, that kind of thing." So I mean, he lied, but at least he didn't let me just go out there, and because I've done that shit before, and that will.
And
that'll piss me off.
That was an ESPN televised game too.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That was. Woof.
All right. Well, we're a little bit. We're an hour and a half into the pod, so I think. Is there anything else you guys wanted to get out before we call it a week?
I don't think so. Over the next couple weeks, we'll have some diamond sports stuff with softball getting going next week and baseball 2 weeks. So. It's kind of crazy that there's no school because of cold weather, and we're talking about baseball and softball, but it's all
stick and ball
right around the corner.
Stick and ball is coming. All right, and
the only thing I had one thing.
Sure.
The offer yesterday to Michael Patterson McDonald, kid out of Westmore. It's not a coincidence that suddenly Michigan State offered that kid today.
A little follow the leader between these two schools, isn't it?
Wow.
Yep. there is some serious David Stone ties to this recruitment. I know everybody's worried about Michigan State, and I'm not telling you that that's impossible, but like when OU's making moves, this is the stuff we're talking about in state. When OU's making moves like that in state, you're playing chess and not checkers. Like OU knows what they're doing there. And I'm not saying that they offered him just to get David or anything like that. Michael's a talented kid. He absolutely is. But they know that helps them. And so for Michigan State to immediately do it tells you they know the same. And I spoke to Michael. We're going to have a full write-up. We talked for about 15 minutes last night. And, I mean, it's not a certainty that he's going to go to OU, and it's not a certainty that he's going to go to OU with David, but it sure doesn't hurt.
Maybe the best thing that people can do out there, and specifically with David Stone, but I would say this is just in general with recruiting. Don't think because a kid puts something on social media, it automatically means one thing or the other.
Well, because somebody had asked him on Instagram or Twitter or something a couple weeks ago, like, why are you always going to Michigan State? You don't ever come to Oklahoma. And he's like, my sister goes to Oklahoma. I'm there all the time. I just don't tweet about it. Case in point, 2 weeks ago, he calls up Michael and is like, hey, you want to go to OU with me? Nobody even talked about David Stone being at OU 2 weeks ago. He was absolutely at OU 2 weeks ago with Michael. And, like I can tell you, I think we've got him listed with like 7 visits to OU since they started recruiting him. And I guarantee you there's 3 or 4 I don't even know about.
Yeah.
So like he is like people trying to be like, oh, he's going to Michigan State. Just stop. Like calm down a little bit. I would bet on Oklahoma right now. And I've got a forecast in. I've had it in for almost a year now. I would have to see something pretty dramatic to make me change my mind.
By the way, just saw PJ Adebore's brother at the
he's
Super Bowl.
From Northwestern.
Yeah. Defensive lineman.
It's pretty good genes.
Guys, I hope it puts into perspective for people. He is I think he came in at 6'1" and 5'8" or something. And I think his arm length was like, his brother. I think it's a Tima or something like that. And his arm length is like 6'10". PJ's 6'5". I bet you money PJ has a 7-foot wingspan. Like, I mean, like that. It's insane. When you guys see him, it's just going to be like, holy crap.
Yeah, his brother looked a little stockier than PJ.
He is. And he's got a younger brother that's the same way, like about 6'1", going to be an interior type of guy. PJ, just like all the genetic links just fired for him. Like everything just went perfectly for him in the genetic sweepstakes. I don't know what you call that. I kind of got lost there.
Yeah, you did. That's all right. You pulled out without saying anything to get you canceled. So good job. All right, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back again next week. We'll have lots more to talk about. Hopefully, we'll have a media day that we've had a chance to catch up with some of the newcomers and the new coaching staff and Brent Venables. So that is scheduled. It was supposed to be today, but because of all the weather, that's been pushed back. So hopefully early next week we'll have more of that from the site. But plenty more to come. Go check it out, Soonerscoop.com, also Soonerscoopstore.com. As we're sitting in here in our conference room, getting colder and colder by the second. Remind you, we got $10 Isaiah Thomas hoodies still in the store.
Sent out a couple.
I think
yesterday.
You sent out some yesterday.
Yeah.
So $5 T-shirts, $10 hoodies. Go get those while they're still here because there's not many of them left. So Soonerscoopstore.com. Go check it out. All right, that's going to do it. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 Podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com.